It starts with one message, a random notification from a girl you've never met before. Maybe it's on TikTok, maybe Instagram, maybe Snapchat. She's attractive, friendly, interested in you for no obvious reason. And for a teenage boy who's lonely, insecure, or just curious, that attention feels real. The conversation moves fast. A little flirting, a few compliments. Then suddenly, the messages turn private, more personal, more intimate. And before the victim even realizes what's happening, the trap closes. Because the girl was never real. The photos were stolen. The personality was scripted. And the person on the other side of the screen wasn't looking for romance. They were hunting for leverage. One photo changes everything. The tone shifts instantly. The same person sending heart emojis seconds earlier is now threatening to send private images to friends, classmates, parents, everyone. Panic sets in fast. Most victims are teenagers. Most have no money. Most are too terrified to tell anyone what happened. And that fear is exactly what keeps the scam alive. Because sextortion doesn't just steal money. It destroys confidence. It destroys trust. And sometimes, it destroys lives. The worst part? The trap always looks harmless first. A simple DM, a fake smile, a conversation that feels exciting for just a few minutes, before it turns into psychological warfare. We've talked about scams on this channel before, but this one felt different, darker, more personal, more dangerous. So, instead of just studying how these predators operate, we decided to go looking for one ourselves. Then, one victim sent us a username. And that's when this investigation began. If you believe more people need to see how these scams really work, subscribe to the Scam Anatomy, like this video, and share it. Because awareness might be the only thing stopping the next victim. The username looked ordinary. Just another social media profile buried under thousands of similar accounts, pretending to be attractive young women online. But according to the victim who sent it to us, this account had tried to blackmail him just hours earlier. At that point, we had two choices: report the profile and move on, or step directly into the scam ourselves. We chose the second option, because the more we investigated sextortion networks, the more one thing became clear. These scammers weren't operating randomly. They had a system, a script, a process designed to psychologically trap victims as fast as possible. So we built a fake profile, young-looking profile picture, normal username, typical teenage interests. Nothing flashy, nothing suspicious. The goal wasn't to scare the scammer away. The goal was to look vulnerable. And almost immediately, the account responded. The conversation started casually enough. Simple questions. Where are you from? How old are you? What do you look like? Nothing overtly threatening. In fact, that's what made it disturbing. Because every message felt engineered to lower suspicion. The account knew exactly how to appear harmless. But then, something happened that nearly every victim reports. The scammer tried to move the conversation off-platform. Fast. TikTok became Signal. Instagram became Telegram. Public apps became encrypted messaging services where conversations disappear and reporting becomes harder. That transition was the first real red flag. Not because it felt unusual, but because it felt rehearsed. Like this person had done it hundreds of times before. And once we entered the encrypted chat, the atmosphere changed immediately. The flirting intensified. Photos started appearing. Compliments became more aggressive, more personal, more manipulative. But underneath the fake romance, another process was happening quietly in the background. Information gathering. The account started fishing for social media profiles, friends lists, contacts, anything connected to real-world identity. At first glance, the questions seemed casual. Do you have Instagram? Who do you live with? Send me another picture. What school do you go to? But taken together, the pattern became obvious. This wasn't conversation. It was reconnaissance. Every detail increased the scammer's leverage. Every answer made the eventual threat more dangerous. And the speed of it was terrifying. Within minutes, the scammer attempted to build emotional trust isolate the target, collect personal information, and escalate the interaction into explicit territory. It wasn't random behavior. It was a formula, and the deeper we went into the conversation, the more uncomfortable the situation became. Because at a certain point, a question started hanging over the entire investigation. Who are we really talking to? A teenager? An organized scammer? One person? A group? Every message felt artificial, almost mechanical. But behind the fake photos and flirtatious messages, there was still a real person somewhere on the other side of the screen, watching, manipulating, waiting for the moment control would shift. And eventually, it did. At first, the conversation felt almost predictable. The fake compliments, the forced affection, the constant attention, everything was designed to create urgency and artificial intimacy at the same time. The scammer would message constantly, "You're cute. I like talking to you. You seem different." And that's the part most people misunderstand about sextortion. The goal isn't attraction, it's acceleration. The scammer wants emotional trust to form as quickly as possible before the victim has time to think critically. Every message pushes the interaction forward. Faster, more personal, more risky. Within a short amount of time, the conversation shifted into explicit territory. The account started sending provocative photos first, not because there was trust, but because it creates obligation. Psychologically, it pressures the victim to reciprocate. And once that exchange begins, the scammer immediately starts reinforcing secrecy. No screenshots. Promise you won't save anything. This stays between us. It sounds reassuring in the moment, but in reality, those messages are part of the manipulation itself, because the victim is being conditioned to feel emotionally safe, while simultaneously becoming vulnerable. And the moment leverage is secured, everything changes. The personality disappears instantly. The flirtation stops. The friendliness vanishes. The tone becomes cold and aggressive almost immediately. What was once a girl sending heart emojis suddenly becomes a threat machine. The scammer starts listing consequences. "I'll send this to your friends. I'll send this to your family. I know your Instagram. I have your followers." And then comes the countdown. A tactic designed to create panic before rational thinking can return. 5 minutes. 10 minutes. Pay now. Respond now. Every second is engineered pressure. The victim isn't being given time to process what's happening. They're being psychologically cornered. And what made this investigation disturbing was realizing how standardized the entire process felt. The same progression repeated over and over again. Fake connection, escalation, isolation, compromise, threat, countdown. Like a script being executed, step by step. There was nothing emotional about it, nothing spontaneous. It felt industrial. Like the scammer had run this exact operation dozens, maybe hundreds of times before, and suddenly, a terrifying reality became impossible to ignore. Some victims aren't losing control because they're careless. They're losing control because they're being manipulated by people who understand fear better than they do. That's what makes sextortion so dangerous. It weaponizes shame. Most victims never report it. Many never tell their parents. Some convince themselves paying will make it stop. But once the scammer realizes fear is working, the demands usually escalate. More money, more photos, more control. And sitting inside that conversation ourselves, watching the pressure tactics unfold in real time, one thing became painfully obvious. This wasn't just a scam anymore. It was psychological predation, disguised as online flirting. And somewhere behind that fake profile picture, someone was doing this to teenagers every single day. If videos like this help expose how these operations really work, consider subscribing to the Scam Anatomy and sharing this story with someone who needs to see it before they become the next target. Up to this point, the scammer controlled everything. The fake identity, the pressure, the threats, the fear. Every interaction felt calculated. But then something happened that completely changed the direction of the investigation. A mistake. It started with a few strange Instagram follows. Accounts we had never interacted with, suddenly began appearing around one of the bait profiles connected to the operation. At first, it didn't seem important. Scam accounts constantly create backup profiles and random connections to avoid getting banned. But one account stood out immediately. Unlike the fake profiles, this one felt real. Real photos, real interactions, a normal-looking personal account with actual activity behind it. And for the first time, we started asking a dangerous question. What if the scammer accidentally exposed himself? At first, we weren't convinced. Scammers are careful. Most hide behind layers of fake accounts, stolen photos, VPNs, and disposable numbers. But the timing felt too suspicious to ignore. So we went back through everything. Messages, profile activity, call attempts, screen recordings. And that's when the investigation turned into something else entirely. During one of the video calls, the scammer briefly appeared on camera. Not fully, just fragments. Part of a face, movements. Quick flashes before the camera shifted away again. It wasn't enough to identify someone immediately. But it was enough to compare. We paused frames, zoomed in, cross-referenced profile photos. The similarities were unsettling, but there still wasn't definitive proof. Until the screen recording. One accidental screen recording changed everything. While bragging and scrolling through his phone during a call, the scammer made a critical mistake. For less than a second, another app opened in the background, Instagram, and the account logged in wasn't the fake female profile. It was the personal account we had been tracking. The moment we caught it, the entire investigation changed. Because suddenly, this anonymous predator, hiding behind fake photos and stolen identities, became something far more vulnerable. A real person, capable of making real mistakes. That was the oh shit moment. Not just because we finally had a connection, but because the balance of fear started shifting for the first time. The scammer still believed he had leverage. He thought he controlled the situation. He thought we were panicking. He thought we were victims. But now we were staring directly at cracks in the mask he spent so much time building. And the deeper we looked, the more reckless he appeared. Cocky, overconfident, comfortable. Like someone who had been getting away with this for a very long time. But now the investigation wasn't just about surviving the scam anymore. Now, it was about confronting the person behind it. And the scariest part? He still had no idea he had exposed himself. The scammer still believed he was in control. Even after all the mistakes. Even after exposing pieces of his real identity. Even after we started pushing back. He thought fear would still win. Because that's how these operations survive. They rely on panic, silence, humiliation. The victim gets cornered emotionally so fast that rational thinking disappears. And once the scammer senses desperation, the threats escalate immediately. Pay now. Send more. Do what I say. That's the formula. And this scammer believed it was working again. The messages became more aggressive. Countdowns started appearing in the chat. Threats about exposing photos. Threats about sending images to followers, friends, even law enforcement. It was pure psychological warfare, designed to overwhelm the victim before they could stop and think. But this time, something was different. Because the person on the other side of the conversation wasn't a scared teenager anymore. And slowly, the pressure started reversing. Instead of begging, we confronted him. Instead of panicking, we responded calmly. Then, we started sending screenshots back to him. Images from the video calls. Frames from the recordings. Pieces of the identity he accidentally revealed himself. At first, there was silence, then confusion. The tone changed instantly. The same scammer, who had been acting fearless moments earlier, suddenly became cautious, defensive, uncertain. So, we pushed further. We created fake news graphics, using his exposed profile images. Headlines, implying investigators were tracking a sextortion suspect connected to online blackmail schemes. For the first time during the entire investigation, the emotional dynamic completely flipped. Now he was the one being watched. Now he was the one trying to figure out how much we knew. And the strangest part, he stopped threatening us. No more countdowns, no more fake confidence, no more intimidation tactics. Just short responses. Hesitation. Then, eventually, nothing. The account went quiet. Messages stopped delivering. Calls disconnected. Profiles began disappearing. And within hours, the account that started this entire investigation was gone. Vanished overnight. Now, does that mean the problem is solved? No, because for every scammer that disappears, countless others are still running the exact same operation right now, using the same scripts, the same manipulation, the same fear tactics. And the reality is, these scams continue for one reason. Most victims suffer in silence. They feel ashamed, embarrassed, terrified of judgment. But the people exploiting them depend on that silence to survive. That's why conversations like this matter. Not to glorify confrontation, not to pretend every victim can fight back, but to expose how these predators actually operate before another teenager gets trapped inside the same psychological cycle. Because next time, the victim might not know it's a scam until it's too late. Next time, they might believe the threats are inescapable, and next time, the victim might not survive it. If you want more investigations exposing the psychology, manipulation, and systems behind online scams, subscribe to the Scam Anatomy, like this video, and share it with someone who needs to see it. Awareness is one of the few things these scammers actually fear.